Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Pots and Petals here, everything garden and allotment related. As you could probably see and hear, it's quite a bit windy today, so I'll see what I can get filmed. But the main reason I wanted to get this video out was to say hello to the new subscribers. I've had quite a few of you join over the last couple of days, so I just wanted to shout out, say hello, welcome to the Pots and Petals family, and also just a big thank you to the original subscribers. It really means a lot, and I love hearing from you guys down in the comment section, so please keep it up. But before we get stuck in today, I am just going to take you back in time to yesterday when we visited London and I went to the Garden Museum. So let's rewind to yesterday and I'll see you back here in a bit.
The next stop will be London Liverpool Street. Change for Central Line, Circle Line, Hammersmith and City Line, Metropolitan Line, London Overground and Elizabeth Line.
It's a bit of a wet one, but we've made it to London Liverpool Street. Now we need to head to Westminster, so for that we need the Circle Line. Come on. Don't think I'd fancy going in there for a swim today, but just a contrast to that murky water, just look at that stunning building. So this is the Houses of Parliament and the world famous Big Ben. Right, that's enough sightseeing. We now need to head over Westminster Bridge, do a right, and we should end up at Lambeth Palace, which is right next door to the Garden Museum. Yes, I am in a pair of shorts and it is tipping it down with rain, but that's what we do in Britain. It is a British summer after all. So we made it, and this is the Garden Museum, and it's in this St Mary at Lambeth church, which is actually the oldest structure in the borough of Lambeth, except for the crypt, which is in Lambeth Palace. And this next door is a beautiful red brick Tudor gatehouse, which is called Morton's Tower and was built by Cardinal John Morton in 1490. That's enough of the architecture, let's go and have a look inside. Now just as you walk in, you come across this glass cabinet and it is full of these beautiful dried flowers. Now the artist is Rebecca Louise Law, and she has used dry flowers and copper wire to create this absolute masterpiece. There's so many different types of flowers in there and it was absolutely stunning. This is the main room to the Garden Museum, and because it's in a church there's some absolute stunning stained glass windows. Now I understand that it was bombed during one of the wars, so some of them are remakes and quite new, but just look at that. Beautiful as the sun was shining through. These two fellas inspired the Garden Museum. So we've got Transescent the Elder and Transescent the Younger, and they were both gardeners, collectors and botanists, and they travelled Europe, Russia and Algeria and even Virginia in the USA to collect plants, and they were famous for being the gardener for the King and Queen Charles I. They had a Jean Cook exhibition, so I understand that she was an artist, but she used to let her garden run quite wild and was a big believer in letting nature do its own thing. But if you do like art, then I would recommend going to the museum because there is quite a lot of artwork to have a look at, and it is all based around flowers, flora, gardening, as you would expect. Oh yeah, and we'll have a little look inside here. So this was like a grass flower meadow made from paper. It was absolutely incredible, just the detail. These artists are amazing. And this was probably my favourite part. So this is all the old gardening equipment. So this is an old cat scarer, some old cloches that would have been used, but all historic equipment that would have been used in the garden, tools. And it was quite interesting because some of these you would have thought would have been around for hundreds of years, but no, some of them have only been around for a couple of hundred. But I was expecting a lot longer. And then some of the old products as well that we used to use out in the garden. It was quite scary to see what was on those labels. But these are the secateurs. I thought they looked more like torture tools than anything else, but I didn't realise that they were actually invented in the 17th century by the French. It's quite nice to know that this sort of stuff is now in the history books. We've got slug pellets, we've got stuff that you'd spray your trees with, but I mean, some of these products are made by people who are making petrol, gasoline, that sort of stuff, so it really is quite industrial. That these things were used in the vegetable beds, so you'd be spraying your crops with this stuff and then taking it home to eat it. I'm so glad we've come on such a long way since then, and we realise that, we've got to look after nature and not go in there and kill everything. So, history books is exactly where all this stuff belongs. And then along here we've got some more tools and posters as well. These are the watering cans. These are a bit later ones. We've got the plastic composite type watering cans. I'll show you some hefty ones in a little while. We've also got one of the first lawnmowers, electric ones, and then the fly mowers up there because that was the first cordless to come along. And look at that retro bit of kit. Absolutely stunning. They don't make it like that anymore. I love the design, retro design back then. And then this strange glass contraption is a Victorian cucumber straightener. So you didn't want a curly cucumber in the Victorian times, so you would have placed it through here and you would have got a nice straight cucumber. And then just behind these we have got the watering cans. So these are made either from clay, terracotta, but that middle one is made from brass, and I imagine that's a few kilograms without water, let alone once it's full. What garden museum wouldn't have a section of gnomes? So look at these cute guys. Gnome actually stands for Gardening Naturally Over Mother Earth. And then finally we ended up in the garden, which was really nice and green, and it was mainly foliage. So we had japonicas, we had hostas, and we even had some cannas in there. Just look at it. And I even think that the rain gave it that extra moody look. It was really pretty out there. And that brings us to the end of the garden museum. So it is quite a small venue. Is it worth the £14? I think they could possibly make it a little bit cheaper. But if you do like your history and you do like your artwork, it's definitely worth a visit. Right, let's get these legs moving again, and I fancy a coffee and a cookie, and I have a favourite place in London, which is down Carnaby Street, so let's go there. And here's the baby, crumbs and doilies, absolutely beautiful cakes and cookies, so I treated myself to a cereal cookie and a coffee latte. Right, we don't stop for long. We are now going to the British Museum. Don't worry, I'm not going to take you around, but I'll show you the building just in case you haven't seen it before. So this is the British Museum. Just look at that stunning architecture and the stone carvings and the columns. Absolutely beautiful. It was quite rammed, but when you went inside it was even more stunning. The glass canopy above made this really strange hue inside, but if you like your architecture, it's definitely worth a visit. But I'm going to love you and leave you here, guys, and I'll see you back at the plot.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little trip to London. I know I certainly did. If you do find that you're in the Westminster area, it is worth popping into the Garden Museum and having a little look there. And then whilst I was there, I did pick up a little book. So The Well-Gardened Mind, Rediscovering Nature in a Modern World with Sue Stuart-Smith. So I'm quite interested in psychology and wellness, well-being, mindfulness. So I just thought this would be a nice little read. So I will start reading that over the next few days, and if I find anything interesting in this, I will let you guys know. And then I've also popped to the charity shop today. So I've gone and got a couple of rudbeckias. So these are yellowy white flowers. I think I've got here we go. So Prairie Sun, and these are going to go in one of the flower beds. A lot of my flower beds are mainly spring flowering, so I need a little bit of summer colour. And then we have got the salvia here, and we've got an echinacea here at the back, a nice yellow one. So I went and brought a couple of pink ones the other day. I think these will look quite nice in the bed up near the fruit cage, so we'll go and find a little bit of room for them and see where we can get these planted in. Come on. These are my plantings from the other day. We've got the Coreopsis and the 2 pink echinacea, and then at the back we've got the dahlia, which is now in bloom. And then the plants that I've popped out here, we've got the salvia down here, the 2 rudbeckia, because they're whitey yellow. I think that'll go quite nice with the white dahlia, and then we've got the yellow echinacea down here as well. So I think as they start to bulk out, this area should start having a bit more summer colour. And then I really need to sort out this mess over here. So the sage has gone crazy, it's flowering, which is not really meant to do. So we'll give that a good hack back and take some home to dry. And then all in there we've got the nigella, we've got some nepeta, we've got mallow, one of the weeds, and then a lot of lavender and a bit of sedum as well. And it all just needs a real good tidy in there because it's just got a little bit too big. The nepeta has got so tall that it's started to flop over all into the nigella, so I really need to think about splitting this plant. And you can see that all that new growth is coming from the centre, so I'll probably split that into about 3 or 4 different plants and dot them around the plot. But a nice quick and easy way to multiply your plants and get more plants for free. I also need to think about the sedum, which is behind all of this, as you can see there. So that doesn't get much sunlight at all. So I do need to think about where we're going to pop the sedum and give this bed a real good doing over in the autumn, so that hopefully we can start getting some pears on that pear tree, because it's just a little bit overcrowded in here at the moment. Look at those beautiful leek flowers. Those spheres of pinks and purple and white little flowers on there, and they're absolutely covered in red soldier beetle. Normally these would be covered in bees galore, but I think once they start to go over, it's all the other little insects. They're covered in flies as well, but mainly the red soldier beetle. And I've also just spotted either a clegg fly or possibly a hornet. I'll see if I can get you in. Do you see that big old beefy bee or fly, whatever it was? So we did finally get some beans this year. I was a bit worried that we weren't going to have any because they did take quite a while to germinate. But this is just a little tip. So once your beans start to reach the top of their poles, you just need to go out and nip that growing point out. So this bit here, I'm just going to nip the top off there. There we go. So that's the growing tip, and that's going to stop the plant from putting all the energy into growing upwards, and it will actually now start to bush out a little bit more. And hopefully by bushing out, that just means that you're going to get a few more flowers, which means a few more beans as well. Now this might be an old wives' tale, an old plot tale, but I've always been told to water your beans from the top and let the water cascade down, as that will help pollinate the bean flowers. Now whether that's true or not, I'm not too sure, but it's something that I've always done, and I always underplant my beans with nasturtiums just to entice those pollinators in. Oh, they're starting to ripen ever so slightly. I'm really chuffed with this dahlia. I was worried that we'd lost it last winter because we did have quite bad frosts, and dahlia tubers don't do frost and they don't like being waterlogged either. And I've got quite clay soil, so when the soil gets wet, it does stay wet. But this is absolutely covered in buds this year. I reckon I've counted about 20 on there. It's a spiky dahlia, and it's a peachy pink with a yellow. It reminds me a bit of those rocket lollies, how you get the 3 different colours. But more of like a peachy sunrise. As soon as it bursts, I'll show you, because it's an absolute stunner. Don't forget, now's the time you want to start deadheading your dahlias, especially if they're starting to go over, just so that you get more blooms. So sometimes they are quite difficult to know what is going to be a new bud and what is already gone over. These are a little bit easier. You can quite easily see what is a new bud and what needs to be taken off. So this is an old bud here. But some of the other dahlias can be quite tricky to distinguish what is a new bud and what's an old one. So when I come to deadheading this one over here, that's going to be like that. So I'll give you some tips as to what to look out for. My analogy for deadheading is that every plant is made to make more plants, and most of that is done via seeds. So for a plant to make seeds, it has to give off flowers, and these flowers have to be pollinated by the insects. Once pollinated, the flower goes through a transformation from being a flower into a seed pod. It's those seed pods that would then fall off the plant or be eaten by a bird or carried in the wind to make more baby plants. However, what we do as the gardener is we come in and we remove those seed heads. By removing those seed heads, you're tricking the plant into thinking that it hasn't set seed. So what does it do? It puts out more flowers for you. It's not for you, but because you've removed those seed pods, the plant now knows that it hasn't been able to set seed. So it puts out more flowers to have more opportunity to be able to set more seeds. This isn't just for dahlias, this can be for any flowering plant really that you've got that you want to keep flowering and flowering. If you want things to self-seed, like your pot marigolds and your cosmos, then you do let them go to seed. However, I'd probably start off removing flowers so that it sees you through the first few months of summer, and then towards the end of summer into autumn, that's when I would start leaving them to go to seed. The water lily is still teasing me. The bud is above the water now, so it shouldn't be too long before it's in bloom. It's its first year to bloom, and I can't remember the colour of it, so I'm quite excited. Hey, look what I've peaked growing. We've got some corn starting to actually form on the plants. I've just sheltered in the poly house because it's really windy outside, and I don't think you guys are going to really hear what I'm saying. I will order a mic tonight, because you guys really should hear what I'm saying, and I live in Britain and it's windy, so a mic is a must. But again, I just wanted to say thank you to all the new subscribers over the last couple of days, and also the original lot. You know who you are. I always appreciate your feedback and the comments, and it's just a really great community on here, which I'm really glad to be part of. Let me know what you guys thought about the little London trip, and whether you liked coming off the plot with me, because that is something I could think about for future videos. I'm going to be back down here again tomorrow. It's meant to be a nicer day. I'll see what I can get ticked off the list, and I'll bring you guys along with me. So I hope you're having a lovely weekend wherever you are, and I'll see you all again very soon. So take care, guys. Bye bye.